you you pick up this skill very early as you're starting, and you continue to learn it. It's not a skill that you learn once and drop off. Just like the technical skills that you learn is something that you keep continually improve. You have to update it, you have to check up on it, learn, acquire more skills, improve the ones you have already, and make it better as you go. Then also try and work towards implementing it in your daily routine, in things that you have, in things that you're doing, even in your personal life, and when you want up and sleeping. If you apply your soft skill to it, you'll be able to do that better. For instance, we're focusing on problem solving. When you when you apply problem solving to your maybe sleeping, you're able to plan better, you're able to troubleshoot and know problems you have around it. So let me not take the spotlight away. I'm bringing to stage our tutor for today and the person of our global leader, LA. Hello, LA, good morning.
Morning, blessing. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to switch off my camera. This is a 45 minutes class. I see some people already asking. And I would encourage everyone to please pay attention and ask questions. So this is like a 15 slides. And trust me, I'll try and finish up within 15 or 20 minutes so that we have enough time to ask questions. Because in asking questions, that's when we can bring out the best, and even learn more. So thank you so much, Blessing, for that introduction into what we're doing today. You've practically said almost everything I'm going to say. I welcome you guys from all over the world, wherever you're logging in from. Just like Blessing has said, this training is as important as your technical training. You can imagine yourself having a car and you don't have fuel in your car. That car is just going to be there for decoration, as pretty and as beautiful and as elegant as a car may be. If there is no battery to charge it, if you're using a Tesla or there's no fuel you can put in the car, it's just as good as being, you know, admired from afar. So that's why soft skills is very, very important. And this is part of this is an area that a lot of people don't literally focus on because they just feel, oh, it's a technical skills. But you see, as you grow in your career, as you get to that managerial skills, you know employers don't want to see your technical skills again because they assume that you would have acquired that over time. They want to see your soft skills. And for a lot of people, it's a lot, they find it, you struggle to get there. You've been wondering how come somebody in marketing and sales or business development is getting promotion, and those of us in tech are not getting the same promotion, and to think that we got hired at the same time. Of course, because they're looking at the soft skills as well. So it's a significant balance between the technical skills and the soft skills, unfortunately for tech people, right? So today we'll be looking at problem solving and eyes for details. And you'll be wondering, what am I doing with problem solving and eyes for details? I mean, the lawyers are there, the people, business analysts are there, the project managers are there. For it's very important for you in your career and also for your personal life. So I've tailored this training as mastering problem solving and developing an eyes for details. So we go quickly to what we're going to learn today. We're going to look at how to identify, how to analyze, and how to resolve problem solving and eyes for details. And in identifying, we're going to look at why problem solving really matters. Why should I be concerned about problem solving? What the heck is problem solving? How does it concern me? Just give me the issue, and let me fix whatever you need to fix and you go. We also are going to be looking at identifying the core problem. Most times we think we know the problem or we think we solve the problem, but there's always, that core problem. Just like saying, oh, let's use for instance that something is not working well, like electricity is not working, and you say, you know what, let's just privatized electricity and sell it, or let's just decentralize it and let each state have generate their own electricity. Is that the core problem? Even though it might improve, but that is not the core problem. So we're going to learn how to identify that. We're going to look at common pitfalls in problem solving. And in analyzing, we'll look at what the problem solving process is, from start to finish. We look at how we can apply some techniques in problem solving. And of course, you can't do that without looking at tools that you use in applying those techniques. And of course, eyes for details, because when you're solving problem, you have to have eyes for details. And in resolving all of these or mitigating it, we are going to look at how we can cultivate a mindset of, being detail oriented, and how we can improve on attention for details. And of course, how we can enhance solving this problem. And I'll share some takeaways with you. So having said that, we'll go quickly to the introduction. And of course, introduction is the talking about the effective problem solving and your attention to details, how relevant it is to both your professional and your personal life. And there are key steps to this. Like I said earlier, you need to define that problem. How do you define the problem? So for instance, now, just before the class started, you know, I was talking to one of my colleagues, Blessing, and she was saying that she said, "Oh, that it's raining heavily and all of that." And the next thing I said was, "Oh, I'm sure there's no electricity, right? Because from this part of the world, it's synonymous to when it rains, there's no electricity, right?" And right there, when we're having that conversation, we're trying to solve the problem, and I'm like, "Okay, so how does it correlate? How come there's no when it rains, there's no electricity?" I can't fathom the relationship, and the one of the founders was like, well, that she also can't um analyze the correlation between it's raining and there's no electricity, right? So we're trying to define the problem of reason why there's no electricity, right? Now, in doing that, we're able to also analyze the root cause. So Blessing, one of my colleagues said, well, that there's this let me not call it a myth, there's this saying that the rain affects the equipment of the electric provider, and that's why they usually turn off the electricity. So you can see how we've been able to narrow it down to analyze the root cause of the problem, right? Now, what solution can we generate from this, right? That's another step you need to look at. So the solution should be, maybe there should be a coverage for their electric equipment. Maybe they should provide like more like for people that electric engineers here, maybe like another layer of whatever it is that would prevent rain or prevent water from affecting the equipment. So many solutions that would generate. And of course, when we now generate that solution, we need to implement it and also evaluate it, because someone has said it, or because we've accepted to take up that particular solution. We Immediately we implement that solution, we also need to evaluate it over time and monitor it, right? So here I'm saying, what exactly is problem solving? Just a summary of it, where you identify the problem, you analyze the problem, and you also resolve, the problem. Now, why does it really matter? Why should we have problem solving? It also helps in innovation. Look at what, the scenario I just gave you now. Now we had analyzed the issue with electricity. So maybe for some reason would have the opportunity to talk to the Minister of Power, right? And we come up with this innovation to say, you know what, we've been able to come up with a some equipment that would, prevent the or some what do I call it now? I don't know if engineers are here to help me. Something that would, that we can use to cover up the equipment of the electric station, so such that when it rains or when there's a thunderstorm or whatever it is, it does not affect, the generating set, and they can give us electricity, and they don't have to take off. Um, can you please mute? Thank you. They don't have to. There's a noise at the background. Thank you. They don't have to take off electricity or switch off electricity rather when it rains, right? So we've been able to come up with innovation. So that's what problem solving does for you. It helps you to think deep and come up with innovation. And of course, it's efficient. Now, the reason why it also matters is because it reduces error. So you, by the time we're able to solve this problem or give this innovation to the Minister of Power, you know, when it rains subsequently, everybody will know that look, there will still be electricity. You know, you can plan adequately and know that you don't have to go and put on an alternative power because electricity will still be there. And of course, it improves productivity. So that period of you going to look for alternative power or going to or you shut down because you don't have alternative power will be reduced because you can do more things during that period. So you see why it's really important to have problem solving skills, right? Thank you. All right. So I'd say it also encourages proactive thinking, right? So you realize that when you're able to solve problem, when you have the skills of problem solving, right, you're already thinking ahead. You're not reactive. You look at things and you can say, oh, there's an issue here or an issue is going to occur. What can I do? How can I help? Right. But again, I mean, it's not all rosy. There are barriers to effective problem solving. And one of the barriers to be able to, the lack of clear problem definition. How can we define this problem? Just like the analysis that I gave about the electricity and my colleagues just before the class started, how were we able to clearly identify that problem or define that problem, right? Did we jump into conclusion just like I did from that, scenario I gave that I just said, oh, there we go. I'm sure it's, when she said it was raining, I said, I'm sure there's no light, there's no electricity because it's synonymous to rain and electricity in this part of the world, right? I was able to jump into conclusion. That's a barrier when it comes to not having effective problem solving skills, right? And there's always that fear of failure. Oh, there we go. So there's no electricity. I hope my colleague has alternative power. Oh, what would happen if she can't, she doesn't have enough power that would carry her for the rest of this class, right? And of course, again, where we ignore small details because we had assumed and we lived in that notion that oh, when there's no power, when there's when it rains or there's storm, there's no electricity, so we just ignore it and say look, it's okay, it's our life, and we move on, right? Okay, so how do you now identify the core problem? Here I'm saying that when you identify, it's very crucial for you to identify the core problem, right? And sorry, um here, so I'm saying identifying the core problem is the ability for you to be able to develop strategic solutions. What can we do? What solution can we put in place? What's the alternative to this particular problem that we have, right? And again, it's also to be able to streamline the problem solving process because we're going to look at the problem solving. So how can you streamline it to say, okay, this is exactly the solution that we are giving to this particular problem? We're going to look at that as we go on. So what are the common pitfalls that we can see in problem solving? Jumping to conclusion. Remember, I just said because he had said there was rain where in the part of the country that she is, I immediately assumed because I knew she was in Nigeria that there would be no electricity, because it is something that we're used to. It is something that, it's been a norm. And which shouldn't be, but if with the skills of problem solving, you shouldn't jump into conclusion so quickly. I'm sure you realize that in some cases when you're probably in a team and you develop a solution and something goes wrong, immediately, especially with an app, you just say, oh, yes, we're not attracting customers because, the UX UI guy did not, the design was horrible, the user experience, people are complaining that they're filling so many forms, just because that's customers are not coming. You didn't even look at it from product perspective that okay, when product launched it, where was the launching big enough? Did it cover the entire niche that the product was supposed to meet and all of that? But because we always jump into conclusion, that's where we see some of the pitfalls in problem solving. Again, we ignore data. So most times we just, because it's a norm, or because it might be an oversight, we just ignore data. We don't look at historical data to say, oh, because it has always been like this, or this thing has been working, but there's an outlier somewhere. That means there's a problem. But because it's always been like that, sometimes we see the outlier. We see that there's, when you plot a graph, you see that there's a peak somewhere, but you just say, oh, it's a one-off. A customer complains about something, you just say, oh, it's a one-off. The customer has complained, oh, it's a one-off, it's okay. Because the customer complained, it doesn't really matter. You're not even paying attention to know why the customer complained. Is it because of the location of the customer? Is it because of maybe the customer doesn't have enough data, or maybe the telco that the customer is using is not working for that particular solution? And we don't even take feedbacks as well. Most times we just assume that, oh, it's working and everybody is fine. Even when it's good, you need to also take feedback. I'm very big when it comes to feedback. I love feedback because it helps me to improve. It helps me to do better. It helps me to to think ahead and say, okay, what else, what next can I do? So you should always be open to feedback, open to criticism, open to compliments, right? It just helps you to solve problems better. And of course, over complicating the solution. So there's a solution. Most times you realize at work, there's a solution, and because you just feel, oh no, we have to put in all the tools because someone had told you during the training that these are the tools that you should use for a particular problem. And you feel, oh, all these tools must be used because that's the way it's been done, So you just complicate the solution. Now go quickly to problem solving process. One, you need to define the problem. Remember, I said that you need to identify that issue. And the issue that we identify is, why must the electricity, the power go off when it rains? We've been able to identify that problem. Now, what strategy are we looking at? We're going to look at the 5 whys. There's this thing called 5 whys. The why, the where, the who, the what, and the when. You use this 5 whys for all problem solving. So when you have a problem like that electricity, that scenario we mentioned, before the class started, while some of you were here, about the rain storm and the power going off, the electricity going off. Why did it go off? Who is in charge? The provider. When did it go off? What happened? It rained, and that's why electricity will. And when did it happen? This morning. So those 5 whys will help you to resolve those issues, right? Now you have to also plan. We have to brainstorm. So one of the founders, one of my colleagues and I were talking about this. So we're brainstorming. What can we do? What would happen? Like where we are right now, we're brainstorming. How can we help electricity in this country, in this part of the world? Must it always go off when it rains? We have a brainstorming, like a mind mapping session, right? And so when we eventually get the solution, and maybe we'll go to China and get one insulin that we can put such that when it rains, it doesn't affect the equipment, then we have to evaluate it and say, is this the best we can get? When we evaluate it, we look at the pros and the cons. We analyze it to say, how long will this work for? Is it a short-term strategy? Is it a long-term strategy? Then we now implement. And when we implement, we monitor. We just don't implement and go to bed. We implement and we look at it and like, is this thing working? Is there an outliner? We use data to do all of that. Now, how can we also apply these techniques in problem solving? So it requires a structural approach. Remember, I talked about the 5 whys. That 5 whys is one of the structural approach, right? You have to go to the root cause to find out the reason. Don't just solve it at the surface. You find out that most times, when they say there's this thing that they always say, oh, most marriages break up because, they just solve the issue at the surface. They don't go to the root cause. For any issue to happen, there's always a crack. A house will not just collapse. There's always a crack somewhere. So you need to go to the root cause of it to say what's really going on, brainstorm, identify it, and make sure that you look at the details and the patterns. Has it always been like this? What happened? Is there an outlier somewhere? Those are the techniques that you can use in problem solving. Now, what are the effective tools that you can use? You can use SWOT analysis. For those of you that have heard of SWOT analysis is a tool that you use in every aspect of your career. No matter where you are, in medicine, in engineering, in think about it, oil and gas, use SWOT analysis. And what is SWOT analysis? There's a strength. What's the strength, in this problem? What's the weakness in this problem? What's the opportunity that we can use from this problem? Remember when I was talking, I was like, okay, if we get like an insulin that can help, right? To prevent electricity going off when there's rain, then we can sell this opportunity. This is an opportunity that we can sell to the Minister of Power. And, we can just make money out of it to say, oh, you know what? We are going to be supplying this. We go to China, we get this thing that would, prevent the power supply people from taking off electricity when it rains. And what's the threat here? Can a new entrance come in? Can a new market come in? Can somebody come in and say, oh, we can do it better than these guys? So I need you to take this back to your everyday job, what you do at work, and use these techniques to solve most of your problems, right? And there's something called fishbone diagram. It's also called Ishikaya, and it's called cause and effect analysis. I mean, I wish I could just jot this, but because of time, it's practically like a fish, and it goes, it has the wings, you draw like a wings. You can just Google it and you see what it looks like. Now, what the fishbone analysis does is it helps you to narrow down the problem to the bottom of the problem, like the bottom of the pyramid of the problem. So initially, when I'm still going to use that scenario um, that my colleague and I were discussing, when you look at it, like for fishbone diagram, you use the 5 whys as well. Why did it rain? Is it the rainy season? You look at the problem from the beginning to the end, just like some of you that locked in late today. You can use fishbone in everything you do in life. You can use fishbone. Why did I log in late? The time was supposed to be 9 o'clock. I woke up late. Why did you wake up late? I slept late last night. Why did you sleep late last night? I was watching a movie on Netflix. Why were you watching a movie on Netflix? I couldn't sleep because I wasn't exhausted. So you narrow it down. That's when you can really get to the root of the problem. And it's something like map minding, right? Mind mapping rather. And it's like a visual brainstorming where we'll be together in a room, right? Like a focus group. I will start, you know, writing out the issues, mind mapping it. So each person's mind, right? We are now mapping it on the board. That's exactly what map minding is, right? So these are some of the tools that you can use in problem solving. Now, looking at eye for details, I'm going to give you a quick scenario. So when I was a CIO, right? When vendors come to pitch or when they come to do a demo, I just look at them and I'm like, most times, I look at the presentation. You find out that, and I'm sure some of you will relate this with me. You find out that when some people come to do presentations, right, they use different fonts, different sizes in their presentation. That thing pits me off. It's like maybe the first time I came to this world, that was what killed me. I get so upset. I'm like, for crying out loud, this is the opportunity to tell me to win my heart, and you're coming with different fonts, different sizes, and your presentation looks so unkept. I mean, I've had cases where people would come and do presentation, even if they're speaking rubbish. But the fact that they're so attentive when it comes to their presentation or the looks, they are neat. They don't have to be expensive, but neat and look very put together. It just wins my heart, right? So eyes for details is very key. And how do I do that? For me, there's something called that I learned from my former chairman, right? Where I was working. He said something. He said, you must autograph your work. What does that mean? It means that when you finish with whatever you're doing, even if it's to send a small chat to anybody, and another thing I'm going to say is I can't stand people that use abbreviations during chats. You send a WhatsApp chat to me and use abbreviations, it puts me off. It just shows me that you're not responsible. This is my personal opinion. Please don't take it as a must do, but this is my personal opinion, right? So when I say autograph your work, right, it means that let other people check it, look at it again, read it again. That's I'm so I love the innovation around what's it called, WhatsApp these days, where you can edit what you've sent, right? Just make sure that it looks, it is accurate, is right, people understand, it's clear, and is not ambiguous, right? Make sure that what you're sending, someone has checked it for you, or you can read it over and over again. And you know what that does? Number one, it prevents error. Number two, it improves the quality of your work, because anytime you send anything, people are eager to read it. People are eager to, see what you have to say, because they know that your work has quality, right? And it also shows credibility, because you know that anything that Ellie says, oh my God, is credible, because Ellie has done her research. Ellie has done, has put everything together. And as it is, right? I was just talking to one of our co-founders, and I said, you know what? I done a very beautiful PowerPoint presentation, and I have a small PA madam like that. My daughter, she came home last night, and I was like, oh, come and have a look at my presentation before that I'm gonna talk about today at Textilers. She's very young, but for me, I love to learn, and I love feedback. So for me, I'm like, anybody can give me feedback, even a 1 year old. You will be amazed what you get from the 1 year old. And she was like, oh, come off it. Why are you using this? Why don't you use this tool? Why are you using this tool for this presentation? And it just goes a long way to show that I am ready to learn and I want to improve. Because I want my work to be credible, right? And it also prevents any costly mistake. If you allow people to help you check your work, you're sure that when you present it to the board, or you present it to your boss, or you present it to the management, right, it is accurate. There's nothing like, oh my God, I made a mistake, this has cost the company the brand, this has caused financial loss to the company, and all of that. Then you also enhance your quality and professionalism. So I'll give you a short story. When I started my career, right, the deputy MD then, always asks the head of IT to, I was, of course, the least in my department, and the only girl as usual. I asked the head of IT to design, a program for him for one of his something personal, the community meeting or whatever. And the man came down after seeing the deputy MD, and he said, oh God, that he knows he's going to design this and take it to this man, but he can bet that the man is going to correct it 10 times. And I was like, wow, what am I in for? Is this how work is? Oh my God, I got home and I told my dad that I'm not sure I want to work. I just want to be at home forever. That it looks like his stuff. So unfortunately for me, I mean, my father encouraged me. And unfortunately for me, there was one day that the head of IT wasn't around. Of course, I was the least in the department. And the deputy MD called his desk, and I picked it up. I was like, who's that? I said, oh, my name is Lola. I'm the new employee. And I said, okay, come to my office. And he said, okay, design this, design. He was just saying it, and I was writing down. Then I went down to my desk because of that notion of, this man is going to change it over and over again. I said, no, this is going to be the first and the last time, and he's going to get it right. And I remembered, of course, all the trainings I've had from my father, and everyone that's impacted my life. And I did it, and I gave it to the man, and I stood. And the man said, good, you can go. I said, sir, I'm waiting for the correction. I said, there's no correction. I got down, I told everybody, they didn't believe it. I waited the next day, I was expecting correction, and there wasn't correction. So ever since then, I became like a PA to the man. It was like anytime he wants to do anything, he's like, go and write this. He will just tell you what to write. He will just tell you what it is, and you come up with that document. And you can imagine, I'm sure everywhere he goes to, he would always like, oh, that girl. And ever since then, I said, I'm going to always improve. And how do I improve? By asking people that, look, how did I do? Did I do well? How was it? Can you please help me check this and all of that? So I was able to build trust, with the DMD then. And of course, this is how you can build trust amongst your peers and also your colleagues. Now, how do you cultivate a detailed oriented mindset? Like I said, you have to, it doesn't come in a day. You have to build it. You have to say to yourself that, look, I'm going to always autograph my work. I'm going to make sure that I have eyes for details. I won't let anything slide. Even if my colleague said, I beg, is it that one? Please, let's just do it. It's okay. Let it run. As long as the query is running, it's okay. It doesn't matter. No, I have to follow best practice. I have to be focused on details. I have to dot the I's and cross the T's. It just makes you feel good, when you're chunking out a good document or a report. It just people are just happy with you, and you're also happy with yourself. And you have to be very observant to be able to analyze problem. Make sure that your eyes are sharpened. You make sure that you have a second eye. Ask people to help you, review, to help you look at it. Make sure your work is accurate. Don't just chunk it out and say, oh, I mean, 90% is good enough. Why can't you do 100%, right? So how do you improve this? You have to double check systematically. Take it step by step and double check it. You have to have a checklist, to say, okay, this is like, up till now I still have a to-do list, and I'm sure I'll probably have a to-do list till I drop dead, because it's just part of me. Every day I put it down, everything I'm going to write. As soon as I finish my prayers, get my prayer paper and paper, or my book. I have a to-do list tool. I just write everything I'm going to do for that day. And before I go to bed, I make sure that I check out all the things I've done. The ones I haven't done, I put it to for the next day. So you have to have a checklist of your life, checklist of what you're doing. If you want to develop a solution, put it down step by step of it, and you now look at your solution. Even if it's running, does not mean it's accurate. When I became a DBA, database administrator, right, they will ask for query. The query will run. I will send the query to them, but doesn't mean that if the data is accurate. Especially now with AI, you have people, the data scientists will give you the data, doesn't mean it's accurate. So you have to have eyes for details. And that's another job opening that people are not looking at. When they're probably looking at, now that there's AI, they're looking for people that have eyes for details, that can actually query that data and be sure that, yes, this data is accurate, so that whatever output they're getting from that solution is also accurate. You need to slow down. Yes, I say here, avoid multitasking, right? Because some people are not very good at it. Some have mastered multitasking, that they can do so many things. I was telling one of the co-founder that, do you know I attend all these courts training, and I've always been like that. That on Saturdays you see me with two, three laptops, especially the 10 o'clock. You have like 3 10 o'clock classes, and I'm there. And I can tell you word for word what I've learned in everything, because I've mastered it over time. But if you're just starting, make sure that you don't put everything together. Just have a list, of things you want to do, what you want to be a master in. And over time, you continue to grow. Now, you also need to practice being mindful, to stay focused. Don't get distracted. Put a timeline to what you're doing. I'm going to spend 1 hour doing this particular solving this particular issue. Let it be 1 hour. Don't say, oh, I'm going to spend the whole day, and in between you're doing TikTok, Instagram, and all of that. Set time for each activity that you're doing, right? Now, how do you now enhance this? By combining problem solving and attention to details. Of course, you need to be able to spot, details that would help you in solving that problem or identifying that problem. And you also need to be able to have, a precision when you're executing that problem. What do I mean? Make sure that the solution that you're executing is the right solution, and you can only do that by testing, by also, monitoring, to be sure that, yes, you're using the right solution for it. I've talked about brainstorming, so I'm not going to go there again. Of course, data is very important. Make sure that you analyze the data. Why is this going on? Why is this wrong? Why is it that when it rains we don't have electricity? So there's a data to show. And if you look at the historical data, it will help you to analyze the problem. You will see an outlier somewhere that you say, oh, okay, I know this is the reason why. When you're in the northern part of the country, oh, they don't take electricity when it rains because the north is cold. Just I'm just giving that as an example, right? Then you also need to have presentation skills. And what do I mean? Look at how I was able to present that document to that DMD, right? And I still stood there, with confidence. You need to have confidence. You need to have your presentation clear. I didn't put ambiguous words in it. I put simple and clear words, right? So some people just want to prove to you that, look, I can speak good English, or I can write good English. So they put words that are so confusing. Don't put abbreviations that other people may not understand, right? You need to develop your presentation skills. Now, what are the key takeaways? The key three takeaways are just three here. Attention to details separates the good from the great. Yes, you develop the app is working, but then again, is it a great app? But if you have attention to details, that's why you see people come up with apps, right? Or solution. Or you can imagine when fintech that started, right? People, and before you know it, someone has come up with a better solution, the same solution, but in a better form. And you're wondering what's going on because those people had identified the errors or the issues that you had in your own solution and came up with a better one, right? You should be able to have a structured problem solving approach, that would help you have a better decision. Remember, we had talked about the 5 whys, right? You have to have that fishbone process of solving your problem. And of course, you have to practice and practice. It wasn't done in a day. I didn't become a problem solver in in a day. You have to be able to practice, use tools, help yourself so that over time you become an expert. And when people talk about you, they see excellence, they see professionalism. So I'm going to stop here. Thank you for listening, and I'm open to questions. Please, let's ask questions. Thank you so much.